In 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Healing Out Loud, Boundaries and Becoming, where we stop pretending and we start healing for real. It's your girl Kayla, and if you're new here, welcome my beautiful friends and welcome my beautiful people, okay? And if you've been rocking with me since day one, welcome back, friend. Because I don't take it lightly that you're here doing life and healing alongside with me. Because around here, we don't just talk about it, we go through it, we grow through it, and we heal out loud. So let's talk boundaries, becoming, and everything it takes to realign, reset, and live this life out loud. Because healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who God created you to be all along. Now, this conversation has been sitting on my heart because I think we've all asked ourselves questions like, do they miss me? Do they regret walking away? Or would they even recognize me now? But what if we've been asking the wrong questions? Because the truth is, some people only knew one chapter of your story. They met the version of you that was still learning, still hurting, still carrying wounds that hadn't healed yet. But they never got to meet the version of you that God was building behind the scenes. So today we're not looking back with bitterness. We're looking back with gratitude. We're celebrating the growth. We're honoring the healing. And we're thanking God for the version of ourselves that exists today. Before we get into it, whenever and wherever you're listening from, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your healing journey. Now let's heal out loud. Now let's talk about something that most of us don't say loud. Not everyone who knew you actually knew you. Okay, some people only met your survival version. The version that showed up smiling when the world was heavy. The version that said, I'm okay, when you were really grieving something you didn't even have words for. Like for me, there were seasons where I was still learning how to live after losing my dad, but I still had to show up in everyday life like nothing had changed. There were moments in relationships where I was given love from a place of emptiness, trying to hold things together while quietly losing myself. And on the outside, I looked like I had it together. But baby, on the inside, I was surviving more than I was living. The version of me stayed quiet when she needed to speak up. She over-explained to people who were already committed to misunderstanding her. She stayed too long in places that were already hurting her because she didn't yet believe she could walk away and still be okay. And I know I'm not the only one. Okay, some of you listening right now, somebody only knew your quote unquote, I'm fine version. Okay, they didn't know the version that cried in silence. They didn't know the version that prayed through pain. They didn't know the version that was trying to rebuild herself or himself while still breaking inside. But here's what I've had to come to terms with, friend. That wasn't the final version of me. That was just the version that survived what she didn't yet have the tools to heal. And I don't say that with shame, okay? I say that with grace because survival kept me here. But healing changed my life. And now when I look back, I don't just see pain, okay? I see process. I see God holding me together in seasons where I didn't even realize I was being rebuilt. And I realized something powerful. Some people didn't miss me. They just missed the version of me that was still learning how to become me. And I can't be upset about that anymore, okay? Because I've outgrown her. I ain't abandoned that woman, okay? I just outgrown her. And what I've learned is that healing doesn't just change your situation, okay? It changes you. And sometimes that's the part people don't recognize anymore because you don't respond the same way. You don't chase the same way. You don't explain yourself the same way. You don't tolerate what you used to tolerate. And suddenly people start saying things like, oh, you changed. And honestly, I hope I have because healing should change you. There was a time I would over-explain myself just to be understood. And now I've learned that clarity doesn't always require my voice in places where I've already been misunderstood. There was a time I would stay in things that were slowly breaking me because I thought loyalty meant suffering in silence. And now I understand that obedience to God will sometimes look like walking away from what you used to pray for. There was a time I thought love meant proving my worth. Now I understand love should never require me to lose myself. Healing taught me how to slow down, and I mean all the way down. It taught me how to sit with my emotions instead of ignoring them. It taught me how to pray differently, not just for things to work out, but for strength to walk away when they don't. And I think that's the part people don't talk about enough. Healing will make you unfamiliar to people who only knew the old you. But guess what, friend? That's not a loss. That's growth. Because the truth is, if everyone from your past is still comfortable with you, you might not have grown at all. And I had to sit with that too. I had to accept that not everyone is going to understand the new boundaries that Kayla set for herself. Not everyone's going to celebrate the new peace. Not everyone is going to like the fact that I stopped shrinking myself to make them comfortable. But I've learned that peace is too expensive to keep discounting for people who don't value it. So if healing made you different, if healing made me different, friend, I'm okay with that, and so should you. Because I'm not trying to go back to who I was. I'm becoming who I was always meant to be. You know, one of the hardest parts about healing is realizing that not everyone is coming with you. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. Friend, I mean that in the realest way possible. Because when you start growing, your life starts shifting, your mindset shifts, your boundary shifts, your conversations shift, your peace becomes non-negotiable. And suddenly, some people don't fit the version of you that you're becoming, okay? There are people I used to talk to every day that I no longer have the capacity for. And it's not because I hate them, but because I've outgrown the version of connection we had. There were spaces I used to feel comfortable in that now feel too small for what God is doing in me. And at first, that can feel like a complete loss. It can feel like loneliness. It can feel like something is wrong, but I had to learn something important. Just because something feels familiar, it doesn't mean it's meant for your future. Growth will expose what was built on convenience instead of alignment. And that can be uncomfortable. Because you start realizing that not everyone celebrates your healing. Some people only know how to relate to your struggle. And when you start getting better, they don't always know where they fit in your life anymore. And that doesn't make them bad, and it doesn't make you wrong. It just means the season has changed. And I've had to make peace with that. I've had to stop forcing connections that God already released me from. I've had to stop reopening doors just because I missed who I used to be inside of them. Because sometimes you're not missing the person, you're missing the version of you that was willing to accept less. And that's a harsh truth to sit with, but it's also freeing. Because when you stop trying to take everyone with you, you finally have room to become who you're called to be. And I think that's what growth is. It's not becoming unrecognizable, but becoming unavailable to what keeps pulling you backward. Friend, at some point in your healing, you stop asking why certain people didn't stay, and you start realizing maybe they weren't supposed to. Because I think about my life now, and I think about the version of me I used to be, and honestly, they don't even look like the same person anymore. Not just on the outside, but internally. The way I think, the way I move, the way I protect my peace, the way I pray, the way I choose myself now. And I realize if some people had access to this version of me while I was still becoming her, it might have changed everything. Because this version of me doesn't beg. She doesn't chase. She doesn't shrink herself to be accepted. She doesn't ignore the red flags just to keep something going. She doesn't abandon herself to keep someone else comfortable. And I had to sit with that truth because not everyone is meant to experience every version of you. Some people only get access to the version of you God allowed them to meet in that season. And I used to struggle with that. Oh my gosh. I used to wonder if people would come back and finally see me differently. But now I understand I don't need them to because I see me differently. And that changes everything. So instead of saying, I wish they could see me now, I've learned to say, thank God they didn't. Because if they had stayed in my life during my becoming season, I might not become this version at all. Some people were never meant to witness your healing. They were only part of the chapter that led you to it. And I can accept that now, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because what God was building in me required space. It required distance. It required separation. And I can see now that what felt like loss was actually protection. So if you're in a season where people are falling off or closing doors or relationships are shifting, don't rush to call it rejection. Sometimes it's just redirection. Sometimes it's God making room for a version of you that's still on the way. And I know this is short, but before we close out today's episode, you already know what time it is. Okay, it's time for that reset and reflect moment. This is the part of every episode where we pause, not to stay stuck in the past, but to intentionally reflect on what God is revealing, what we're learning, and how we're growing, because healing isn't about just listening. It's about applying. It's about being honest with yourself, and it's about making room for the person you're becoming. So wherever you are, if it's safe to do so, friend, I want you to remove the distractions for just a moment and reflect with me. Today, I want you to think about the version of yourself from a year ago, or even just a few months ago. The version of you that was still in survival mode, still trying to hold everything together, still learning how to navigate grief, relationships, boundaries, disappointment, or just simply yourself. Now ask yourself, what has changed in me? Not just externally, but internally. What do I tolerate now that I used to accept without question? What do I walk away from now that I used to stay in? What do I know about myself now that I didn't know before? And who had to leave my life so I could become this version of me? Friend, don't rush those answers. Truly sit with them, because sometimes we move so fast that we forget to celebrate the healing that's already taken place. Now take it one step deeper. Friend, write a letter. Not to someone else, but to yourself. Write from your old self to your current self. Let her tell you what she survived, what she was afraid of, what she was praying for, what she didn't understand yet. And then write back from who you are today. Respond with grace. Respond with compassion. Respond with love. Tell her she made it. Tell her she was stronger than she realized. Tell her that every tear, every setback, every unanswered prayer, and every difficult season wasn't the end of her story. It was preparing her for the woman or the man she's becoming today, because that version of you didn't fail you. You carried you here, and you deserve to be honored. And if you're a little uncomfortable, I'll even share with you the letter I wrote to myself. A letter between who I was and who I am. Dear me, is this really us? I look at you now and sometimes I can't believe you're the woman I was fighting so hard to become. I know I didn't always make the best choices. I stayed when I should have walked away. I searched for love in places that left us hurting. I reacted from pain, questioned our worth, and held on to things because I was afraid of what would happen if I let them go. But I hope when you look back at me, you don't hate me for it. I hope you understand that I was trying. I was carrying pain I don't always know how to explain. And some days, surviving was the best I could do. But look at you. You found your way out of things I thought would break us. You learned to choose yourself. You found your voice. You found peace. You found God in a different way. And somehow you learned to love us again. I just hope you're proud of me too. Dear old me, oh baby, I am. I'm so proud of you. I don't look back at you with shame anymore. I look back with grace because now I understand. You were doing the best you could with what you knew then. And I need you to know something. We didn't get everything we once prayed for, and I'm grateful for that. Some of those unanswered prayers were protection. Some of those closed doors were redirection. Some of those endings were making room for a life we couldn't see yet. You spent so much time wondering, when is it going to be your turn? But baby, you weren't forgotten. You were becoming. Every heartbreak, every mistake, every tear, every lesson, and every version of you brought me here. So thank you for holding on. I forgive you. I honor you. And I love you through every season we've been through. Because I finally understand something I wish you could have known back then. I couldn't have become her without first being you. And girl, look at us now. With love and so much gratitude. Us. So as we finish today's reset and reflect moment, I want you to remember this. Sometimes the most powerful healing doesn't happen while you're moving forward. Sometimes it happens when you pause long enough to recognize just how far you've already come. So celebrate your progress. Give yourself grace for the version of you that survived. Honor the version of you that's still becoming. And trust the version of you that God is continuing to shape every single day. Because every boundary you've set, every lesson you've learned, every tear you've cried, every prayer you've prayed, every step you've taken towards healing, my friend, it all matters. It all counts. And if today you choose to pause, reflect, and recognize your growth, say it with me, guys. That's growth, baby. Now, as we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Healing isn't just what happens during this episode. Okay? It's what happens after you press play. So don't just listen, live it. Wherever you're listening from, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your healing journey. If today's episode encouraged you, challenged you, or reminded you that you're becoming someone your old self would be proud of, please share it with someone who needs to hear it too, because you never know who needs this reminder today. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's slowly but surely growing. We've got so much more healing to do together, and I can't wait to continue this journey with you. But until next time, keep setting those boundaries, keep becoming who God created you to be, and keep healing out loud, because every step forward matters. And my friends, so do you. I'll see you guys in the next episode. It's your girl, your favorite host, who will always continue to do the utmost, Kayla, signing off. And until next time, bye.